Hello viewers, I am your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show with Nepal, which hosted the 4th summit of 7-nation grouping of BIMSTEC in capital Kathmandu. The grouping that aims to develop ties among the countries along the Bay of Bengal reviewed the entire gamut of multilateral ties and proposed further options in order to make it more active and strong. A report.
Executive heads of 7 South Asian and Southeast Asian countries India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Bhutan and Nepal congregated under one roof as Nepal hosted the 4th two-day summit of BIMSTEC, the Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation. This year's theme of the summit was towards a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable Bay of Bengal region. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who joined the summit at a time when India is recovering from devastating floods, asserted that the BIMSTEC member states, situated between the Himalayas and the Bay of Bengal, face frequent natural disasters such as flood, cyclone and earthquake, and called for cooperation and coordination among them in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief efforts.
हिमालय और बंगाल की खाड़ी से जुड़े हमारे देश बार-बार प्राकृतिक आपदाओं का सामना करते हैं। कभी बाढ़, कभी साइक्लोन, कभी भूकंप। इस संदर्भ में एक दूसरे के साथ ह्यूमैनिटेरियन असिस्टेंस और डिजास्टर रिलीफ प्रयासों में हमारा सहयोग और समन्वय बहुत ही आवश्यक है।
While condemning terrorism in its all forms and manifestations, Modi urged the member countries to come together and fight the menace of terrorism.
हम में से कोई भी देश ऐसा नहीं है जिसने आतंकवाद और आतंकवाद के नेटवर्क से जुड़े ट्रांसनेशनल अपराधों और ड्रग ट्रैफिकिंग जैसी समस्याओं का सामना नहीं किया। नशीले पदार्थों से संबंधित विषयों पर हम बिम्स्टेक फ्रेमवर्क में एक कॉन्फ्रेंस का आयोजन करने के लिए तैयार हैं। यह स्पष्ट है कि ये समस्याएं किसी एक देश की लॉ एंड ऑर्डर समस्या नहीं है।
Although the grouping has existed since 1997, BIMSTEC had been largely ignored until an Indian push came in recent years. The renewed push came from India in October 2016, a month after the terror attack in Uri. Alongside the BRICS summit in Goa, India hosted an outreach summit with leaders of BIMSTEC countries.
यह काम कोई अकेले नहीं कर सकता। हमें एक दूसरे के साथ चलना। मैं मानता हूं कि सबसे बड़ा अवसर है कनेक्टिविटी का, ट्रेड कनेक्टिविटी, इकोनॉमिक कनेक्टिविटी, ट्रांसपोर्ट कनेक्टिविटी, डिजिटल कनेक्टिविटी और people to people connectivity.
Leaders also held bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit. Modi has been giving a special emphasis of late at improving Indian ties with its neighbors in South Asia and Southeast Asia. BIMSTEC has provided a great opportunity to these countries in improving the connectivity at different fronts, whether it is economic, social or political. Around 22% of the world's population lives in the 7 countries around the Bay of Bengal, with a combined GDP close to $2.7 trillion.
All 7 countries have sustained average annual rates of growth between 3.4% and 7.5% from 2012 to 2016. A fourth of the world's traded goods cross the bay every year. We are now joined by Dr. Suvrokamal Dutta, an economic expert who has closely been following the BIMSTEC developments over time. Mr. Dutta, how do you see the 4th BIMSTEC summit and how is it going to change the economic equations between the South Asian and Southeast Asian countries?
Well, the present summit which is being held in Nepal, I think it's very, very significant in the context of South Asia as well as Southeast Asia, and India being a pioneering leader in the formation of BIMSTEC, this would have a significant impact not only for the South Asian region, the present summit, but also in the context of India, because since India being one of the forming member of BIMSTEC, So India has had major roles right from the beginning in relation to BIMSTEC. And I understand that with the expansion of China in relation to South Asia and Southeast Asia, BIMSTEC becomes more significant, not only for India but also for the whole region as such, because we all know that the way the CPEC thing is happening in relation to China and Pakistan, I think it's a major concern for India in relation to her, her good relationship in South Asia and with Southeast Asia. And China has been trying desperately to expand her links and to develop a kind of a domination in South and Southeast Asia.
India has been giving a strong push to the regional connectivity. Do you think that BIMSTEC could prove to be a game changer in coming times?
Yes, of course. Bay of Bengal, and not only Bay of Bengal, even Indian Ocean for that matter, Indian Ocean and Bay of Bengal has been a major focus area for India, and of course Arabian Sea also. The Honorable Prime Minister of India has had series of bilateral meetings with the heads of state of Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, then for that matter, Thailand, Myanmar, Bhutan and Nepal, and I think several treaties and several agreements have been signed between all those respective countries and India. And I think India can play a major role in relation to this, especially in relation to the civil aviation, railway expansion, roadway expansion, waterways development, portways development, and also in relation to military warfare and defense ties. And I think several treaties which are being signed in all those areas actually caters to that whole domain which I am speaking about.
It also provides a platform to countries in improving its bilateral ties. How do you think the member countries, especially India, has been benefited from this?
It has been benefited in a very significant way from BIMSTEC in India, Like say, for example, I can cite a couple of examples out here. Say in relation to India and Bangladesh, Bangladesh has actually given a free access within its territory for goods to be, exported from northeastern part of India to Calcutta port, and the railway network and the waterway network between Agartala and Kolkata via Dhaka, and for that matter between Guwahati, Tinsukia, Dibrugarh through the Brahmaputra river down to Yamuna river in Bangladesh, and then the Padma and Ganga to Kolkata, That connectivity has developed, and Bangladesh has given a free access to that.
Do you think BIMSTEC has gained huge prominence of late and has virtually replaced the dormant SAARC?
Well, I would not say that it has replaced the dormant SAARC as such, because yes, in SAARC we do have problems because of Pakistan, and all the countries of SAARC do have problems with Pakistan on the issue of terrorism, on the issue of ISI intervention, and on the issue of political expansion of political Islam. So there are major concerns of these countries, and yes, you can say it is a kind of a antidote against SAARC or for SAARC as such, since SAARC is not functioning in a cohesive manner because of problems created by Pakistan. I think BIMSTEC in a way is actually taking that footy as such, and BIMSTEC in a way is fulfilling that vacuum which was created because of non-functioning of SAARC.
Thank you, Mr. Dutta. Moving on. Pakistan has been hatching devious plots against India for years. Having lost multiple small-scale battles and 4 major wars against India, Islamabad has resorted to waging a proxy war against New Delhi. While it has remained unrelenting in its endeavors to destabilize the border state of Jammu and Kashmir, it has covertly been carrying out its nefarious operations to subvert the peace and harmony of Punjab state. However, here also it has failed miserably. A report.
Rattled at the massive moral defeat it suffered at the Trafalgar Square in London, Pakistan-backed Sikhs for Justice, a pro-Khalistan organization, has stooped as low as making physical assaults at those Sikhs who do not approve of its blueprint for achieving its secessionist agenda. These goons working at the payroll of Islamabad repeatedly attacked Delhi Sikh Gurdwara Management Committee DSGMC Chief Manjit Singh GK in New York and California. Manjit was attacked as he has time and again raised his apprehensions about the way the organization has been trying to achieve its ambitions. He said that the recent act of violence has exposed the satanic designs of this group.
University Guru Ghar de vich main santan de naal इथों के मोहतबर सजना के नाल मत्था टेकन आया सी 25-30 मुंडे जिहड़े आए गुरु घर दे विच इन्हां ने मेरे ते हमला किया। गुरुद्वारे की मर्यादा देखते हुए मैं अपने साथियों को आख्या कि आपां कुछ नहीं कहना, ये जो करते ने करते रहन। और जिस बर्बरता के नाल इन्हां ने अटैक किया, मैं समझदा कि मेरी सेहत ते कोई फर्क नहीं। मैं अज भी उत्थे खड़ा वां, गुरु घर के अंदर नतमस्तक होकर आया वां और मैं अपनी लड़ाई जारी रखांगा। अगे न्यूयॉर्क मेरे ते हमला किया सी, पहले कभी दिल्ली मेरे ते किरपाना चलाइया, अज 25-30 जणियां ने कल्ले ने मेरे ते हमला किया। और जिस तरीके नाल मनो इन्हां ने अज जानों मारन की कोशिश की है, गुरु की बख्शिश है कि मैं सही सलामत तुहाडे सामने खड़ा वां। लेकिन मैं गुरुद्वारे साहब की मर्यादा नहीं तोड़ी, इन्हां ने तोड़ी। गुरु इन्हां नूं भी भली बख्शे, इन्हां नूं भी मार के जिहड़े भज्जे ने इत्थों दौड़े ने और कुछ शायद पुलिस ने पकड़े ने, मैं कहना कि इन्हां नूं भी सोझी बख्शे।
Sikhs for Justice has been trying to indoctrinate the susceptible Sikhs into joining their satanic movement. However, disillusioned with their ideology, people have not rendered any support to it. Earlier in the month of August, Pakistan's ambitious anti-India propaganda, which sought Sikh support in launching its self-styled referendum campaign in London, turned out to be a damn squib as it failed to gather any traction amongst the Sikh diaspora. Experts and politicians across Punjab have squarely condemned the attack. They have blamed Pakistani spy agency, the ISI, as the linchpin behind the physical violence unleashed by the radical goons.
He was attacked by few goons who are backed by Sikh for Justice, our organization which is driven by ISI. The funds to this this organization has been given by ISI. So we have taken this issue with Honorable Foreign Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. Sardar Sukhbir Singh Badla have also spoken to her, and she has assured her that she will speak to her counterpart there in America and ensure that these kind of goons are put behind bars.
Islamabad has been spending millions of dollars in order to keep the secessionist flame burning among Sikhs living in American and European countries. However, it is irritated by the fact that even those desperate efforts have not yielded any results. Owing to its unrelenting support to extremism and terrorism, Pakistan has virtually been cornered internationally. Of late, it has found itself getting isolated. The country is also facing the possibility of being blacklisted by the Financial Action Task Force, an international body that monitors the funding of designated terror organizations. Although the current dispensation has promised a change in the status quo, it is highly unlikely that the things are transforming in the country until the deep state of the army stops framing its domestic and external policies.
Moving on to the war-torn country of Afghanistan, where China is reportedly making inroads into its geographical and political perimeters, South China Morning Post, a Hong Kong English daily, reported that China has funded and started building a training camp for Afghan forces in isolated Wakhan corridor of the country. China, being deemed as expansionist across the world for its increasingly assertive role in South Asian and global geopolitics, has however denied the reports.
Massive ripples were created as soon as reports of China establishing a military base hit the force. A Hong Kong-based newspaper, South China Morning Post, reported that Beijing has started building a training camp for Afghan troops in Afghanistan's isolated Wakhan corridor, a 350-kilometer narrow strip of inhospitable and barely accessible land. Various international news outlets since then, quoting different sources, have reported that Beijing is indeed planning an expansion of its military base in Afghanistan, which many across the international arena believe to be a part of an ambitious Chinese imperialism. The Chinese government has denied reports of Beijing building a military base in Afghanistan, terming them groundless. While the Chinese Defense Ministry said that the so-called issue was groundless, Foreign Ministry too labelled the reports untrue.
他说要修建在阿富汗修建训练营，并且派遣军队。那么，既然修建训练营，它本身就是一个不存在的情况，就是不属实的消息，那么跟它相关的自然也不属实了。
China has been aggressively building its infrastructure and increasing its military capabilities across many countries in recent times. It has made huge investments in South Asian countries of Sri Lanka and Maldives in the name of the Belt and Road Initiative. Critics, however, have condemned Chinese moves and have termed it a part of its expansionist design. Although the Chinese establishment has categorically denied reports, the international media has reported that China would send about 500 troops of its People's Liberation Army to train the Afghan soldiers. Earlier, reports of China building a base in Pakistan with a view of expanding its military base had surfaced, but both Beijing as well as Islamabad denied the claims. Experts believe that reports of a Chinese military base in Afghanistan is true, given that Beijing has been concerned about violence in Afghanistan spreading to violence-prone Xinjiang region in China's far west, where hundreds of people have died in recent years in unrest blamed by Beijing on Islamist militants.
Last year, China had opened its first military base in the Horn of Africa country Djibouti, and there were umpteen reports of it opening another in Pakistan, with credible sources claiming China is now eyeing to set up one in Afghanistan. Beijing surely looks like aiming at expanding its military base in Asia and other parts. Moving on to Maldives, where the political atmosphere is gaining heat in the run-up to the presidential elections slated September this year. The United Opposition's candidate Ibrahim Mohammed Solih has launched a scathing attack on the incumbent President Abdullah Yameen, calling him an autocrat who is trying every trick in the book to rig the upcoming elections. A report.
Ibrahim Mohammed Solih, a veteran lawmaker who is now the opposition's presidential candidate for the upcoming elections, has cast aspersions on the political wheel of the incumbent president and has said that he did not expect September's election to be free and fair. Solih, who is now leading the opposition attack after the Election Commission of the Maldives found former President Mohammed Nasheed ineligible to run for the September elections, however asserted that he trusted voters to decide on his challenge to President Abdullah Yameen. While meeting the Maldivian citizens in the Sri Lankan capital Colombo, Solih also expressed his optimism in the restoration of two democratic structure in the country.
Jamhuri Party leader Honorable Qasim Ibrahim the
opposition has accused Yameen of misusing his position and arbitrary detention of those leaders who could have challenged his bid to be re-elected to the chair. Nasheed, who also attended the meeting, said they were aware that President Yameen is going to rig the elections.
Well, the people are with us, and it is very clear that we are going to win these elections. We will have the vote, and we are also aware that President Yameen is trying to rig it as much as he can. But when the people come in overwhelming numbers, very often there is very little that anyone can do, and we are going to win this.
Maldives has been facing instability as President Yameen and his government has cracked down on opposition political parties, curtailed fundamental freedoms, and repeatedly violated the Maldives' international human rights obligations since February this year. Yameen is seeking a second five-year term in the tropical tourist paradise driven by political instability since a police mutiny forced its first democratically elected leader, Mohammed Nasheed, to quit in 2012. In February 2018, Yameen declared a state of emergency, restricted constitutional rights, suspended forces, and curtailed the authority of the judiciary. In the ensuing crises, the government arrested 2 Supreme Court judges along with several protesters. The Maldivian government has repeatedly disregarded the opinions and the urgings of the UN Human Rights Committee. Earlier, UN Working Group or Arbitrary Detention condemned the trial of former President Nasheed and his conviction for 13 years on terrorism charges.
A group of European parliamentarians had recently visited capital Male and threatened to impose economic and other sanctions on the Maldives if the present regime headed by President Abdullah Yameen failed to hold free and fair federal elections. We now take you to India's Bodh Gaya, also known as the Land of Enlightenment, which recently hosted the 6th edition of International Buddhist Conclave. Devotees from across Southeast Asia and other parts of the world congregated to offer prayers to Lord Buddha. We have a report.
Bodh Gaya in India's Bihar state is one of the most revered spots for Buddhists world over. It is believed that under the Bodhi tree, Lord Buddha attained enlightenment, and it is for this reason that the village in the eastern part of India came to be known as the Land of Enlightenment. Buddhist scriptures describe Bodh Gaya as the navel of the earth. An important religious center for centuries, with Emperor Ashoka, Huansang and countless others as visitors once upon a time, Bodh Gaya till date continues to attract pilgrims from all over the world. Recently, Bodh Gaya yet again pulled thousands of pilgrims from around 30 countries when it hosted the International Buddhist Conclave.
I'm very happy to be in our conclave. India has a long story, Buddhist story. Mongolia too. Between Mongolia and India, to our countries, we have many sacred, many amazing story, long story. I hope this story will be increased many years.
Not only the tourist industry, we are not going only for the tourist industry. What we want is the Buddhism to be practiced in the world, and that will be future for everyone. What we feel is that.
The gathering aimed to give a glimpse of Lord Buddha's place of meditation to the visitors was part of 6th International Buddhist Conclave, which was kicked off in India's capital, New Delhi. Buddhism binds the culture of India with that of countries in the region like Bhutan, China, Cambodia, Indonesia, Japan and many more. About 500 million Buddhists worldwide represent 7% of the world's population, making Buddhists the 4th largest community in the world. India's Ministry of Tourism has identified 17 sites in 12 clusters in the country for development under Iconic Tourist Sites Development Project pursuant to budget announcements of 2018-19. 2 prominent Buddhist sites, namely Mahabodhi Temple in Bihar and Ajanta in Maharashtra, feature among the iconic sites identified by the ministry.
Every year, pilgrims and tourists from Sri Lanka, China, Japan and the entire of Southeastern Asia throng this holiest of Buddhist shrines during the conclave, and 2018 was no different. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Take care and goodbye.